that they're going to miss the train. Okay, good morning. My name is Jeff Wilson. I'm the moderator of the town of Bernardston, and I will call this meeting to order. We have a warrant that was issued by the selectmen of the town on, I guess, on the, what was the date? The 7th of May, which reads as follows. Greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town, qualified to vote in elections and town affairs, to meet at the Pioneer Valley Regional School Auditorium, 97F Summer Turner Road, Northfield, Massachusetts, Saturday, the 17th of May, 2025 at 10 o'clock in the morning to conduct the annual business meeting, then and there to act upon the following articles. Which follows is 27 articles. We have a return from Peter Shedd, the constable, which is dated the 8th of May, saying that pursuant to the within warrant, I have notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of Bernardston by posting up attested copies of this warrant 7 days prior, 7 days before the date of said, it says election, but meeting, as within directed at the Bernardston Town Hall, 9 Church Street, Bernardston Post Office, 9 Center Street, Marshall's Country Store, 44 Church Street, the Bernardston Senior Center, 20 Church Street, and at the town's website. And that is being more than 7 days prior to today's date. The requirements for notice have been duly satisfied, and I find that this meeting is properly in order. Therefore, we will start, if everybody could stand, and we'll pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I will first order of business, I will ask everybody on the stage, starting with my immediate left, to identify and introduce themselves.
Ken Borderweek, Select Board.
Brian Keir, Select Board.
Brian Herview, Select Board.
Jane Dutcher, Finance Committee.
Tammy Powell, Finance Committee.
Jody Coleman, Finance Committee.
Okay, and to my right.
Christina Slocum-Wisk, Town Clerk.
Donna McNichol, Town Council.
Karen Kelly, Town Administrator.
Okay, thank you. Then we will now proceed to the first article. Article 1, to act upon the reports of the town clerk, town treasurer, select board, school committees, all other town officers and committees as contained in the annual town report for 2024. And I think you all received or had access to a copy when you came in. So, can I hear first an oral report from the select board on the status of the Charity Lot Trust Fund?
Sure. The Charity Farm Lot Trust Fund for the 2024 calendar year had a beginning balance of $70,517.92. In March of 2024, interest earned was $905.53. June of 2024, interest earned was $705.76. September of 2024, interest earned was $4,770.75, with a December of 2024 loss of $1,810.98, with an ending balance in December of 2024 of $75,088.98. And a special note about the fund is that $30,000 of the fund total is non-expendable.
Okay, any questions? There being none, we'll proceed to hear a report from the six-town regional planning board on what to expect in the coming months regarding the proposed regionalization.
Thank you. My name is Jane Dutcher, and I live at 52 Shaw Road. And I appreciate being allowed to present this report for the six-town regional planning board that was formed by this town and 5 other towns in 2019 to research and study the feasibility of creating a new regional school district by combining the towns in the Pioneer and Gil-Montague regional school districts. I've been a member of that planning board in the past and recently served on the committee which developed the proposed regional agreement. This is not a presentation of the research done over the past 5 years. That will come in the months ahead. However, I do want to call your attention to the handout for you to review at your convenience. Was available at the door when you came in. It provides some background information on the composition of the planning board and its purpose. Today, I want to bring your attention to the fact that the six-town regional planning board's draft proposed regional agreement has been completed and is presently under legal review to ensure it complies with state laws and regulations before being shared with town officials. The planning board will then review and deliberate on this document before making a recommendation for your consideration at a special town meeting in October or November. Although we have held forums and presented information in the past, the planning board will focus its efforts in the final months on sharing its research and findings through print, social media releases, updates for town newsletters and websites, public meetings and forums, multiple QR codes at various locations that link to the proposed regional agreement and the six-town regionalization website, as well as other outreach suggestions made by the general public. Because we were formed by you, it is our goal to provide residents with as much information as possible and answer questions before coordinated town meetings are held. Thank you for your time. I look forward to a productive town meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll proceed to hear a report from the Select Board.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. We have moved the annual meeting to Saturday morning as a trial. Please let us know if it works for you or if you have us revert back to an evening meeting. First order of business, we want to recognize a dignitary in the audience. Is Sophia Wood here? Could she stand up? Sophia is an 8th grader. She's studying government and was asked to come to this meeting, or she asked to come to this meeting to observe how annual meetings work in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So welcome, Sophia. Thank you. Having duly embarrassed her enough, I'm sure she's mortified. So now, the annual town report. Here it is. It's a labor of love. Karen Kelly, our town administrator, works her rear end off to pull it together. It's an exceptional report this year, over 160 pages, covering each of the departments and all of the activities in town. Over 160 pages, like publishing a full book. If you want to know anything about the town of Bernardston, it's in there. Please spend an hour reading it. It will be well worth it. This year's report honors 2 individuals. First, my longtime friend, Bob Eddy. He loved this town. He loved Donna. He was out there somewhere. And he also loved Kiwanis, and there's a lot of Kiwanians in this audience as well today. Bob was an A-plus person. He would do anything for anyone. So he's well-deserved. Second honoree is here on the dais with me, Jane Dutcher. No one, and I do mean no one, has given more to this town. She is demanding. She can be prickly. She is laser-focused on making sure that Bernardston is heading in the right direction. I've served on any number of different committees with her, the Finance Committee, the Town Buildings Committee, the Leiden Police Advisory Committee, the Three-Town Committee, what else? The Tax Write-Off, Work-Off Committee. She's a volunteer. She's someone who shows up prepared. She's done her homework. She's very demanding in meetings and making sure we keep on track, that we cover what we're supposed to cover and nothing else. She is an expert in town finances and in town ethics. If you want to know something, how it's supposed to be done properly, ask Jane. We are very lucky to have her on our side, and again, very well-deserved honor for her. Next up is an overview of our town department heads. First up, Karen Kelly. She's tough, she's hardworking, she's always learning, and she's always available. This year, she spearheaded a rewrite of the town's personnel policy that dates back the original to 1990-something. I don't know what it is. She demanded that we upgrade the town's information technology platform, adding security, adding emails for all town employees so you folks can get in touch with the person you want to. She also launched the new website. She is just an incredibly hard worker. After that, Chief Palmieri. He's recruited and trained a department of 4 outstanding police officers dedicated to keeping us safe and focused, and his department is focused on community policing. Brian Miner is out there somewhere also. He's head of our highway department. Bernardston has never looked better. His team is top-notch, skilled, and hardworking. Our equipment is in terrific shape considering its age and is getting better all the time. Pam Parmakian, new senior center director. I was worried when we lost Jen Reynolds, but Pam has truly been an upgrade. She is doing more for our seniors than ever before. We are faced with a severe financial funding challenges because of the turmoil in Washington and Boston, but she's finding the way to make it work. Every day, the parking lot at the senior center is jam-packed to capacity. Our seniors love her. Lori Novus, our new librarian. Lori and her board members and her staff have transformed the library into a wonderful resource for the town. If you haven't visited the library since Lori took over, I absolutely encourage you to visit. It is clean, bright, welcoming, and full of energy and books. Pete Shedd in the fire department. What a difference a year makes. We finally have a new fire station that is the envy of all the surrounding towns. Scott and Jordan DeGeorge, Tim Snow, Dennis Shakro, and Lloyd Grover, and the whole team at the fire department transformed that building into something special. Pete promises me that someday soon we will have a party to show off the new fire station to the town. And, oh, by the way, we have a brand new fire truck on order. Thank you to the citizens of Bernardston for voting to purchase it. Last but not least, to recognize Sarah Burstein. She is our Bernardston Elementary School principal. Sarah has breathed new life and energy into our little elementary school. She has the teachers and the kids excited about learning and taking on new challenges. I know I haven't mentioned every department, and I know I'll get in trouble for that, but I wanted to make a point to all of you that for a very small town, we have a lot of talented people working for us. Lastly, I wanted to mention our new EMS solution that you will be voting on as part of this year's budget. 4 towns, Northfield, Gill, Irvine, and Bernardston, have come together to form a consortium to provide emergency medical services, that's ambulances, for our region. Matt Wolkenbright, our EMS director, will explain much more about it when that part of the budget gets presented for a vote. Just be assured that when you dial 911, there will be help on the way. And with that, I would like to close by saying that it's truly been an honor to serve as your chair of the Select Board for the past year. Brian Keir is the new chair, bringing an experienced hand to guide the town toward the challenges of the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, there being none, we'll hear a report from the Finance Committee Chair regarding the fiscal year 26 town budget.
Thanks, Jeff. First, as always, I want to introduce the other members of the Finance Committee. Immediately to my left is Tammy Powell, and to her left is Jody Coleman. And there are 2 empty chairs beyond them that need to be filled. We want to acknowledge the help we received from Elizabeth Braccia, our accounting team, Susan Bovee, our treasurer, Karen Kelly, our town administrator, and to acknowledge that as in the past, most of our budget meetings have included the select board. Our across-the-board salary increase this year was set at 3%, slightly higher than Social Security. The biggest changes in the budget compared to the current year are the following, and I'll do this as quick as I can, but slow enough for you to find it in your warrant. On page 2 of the warrant, Article 5, Table 1, under debt service, we're asking you to approve $45,796.80 transfer from free cash to pay the interest on the fire engine loan for the first year. More about this loan later. The change in the elections and registration line is because there are fewer elections scheduled for this coming year. Turning to page 4, under Human Services, the Council on Aging payroll is greater than the stated 3% because the Select Board and Council on Aging made a mid-year annual salary adjustment. There's also a significant increase to the reserve fund, and the entire amount is proposed to come from free cash. Many grants are not projected to be funded for '26. Ken just mentioned this. Rather than try to supplement individual budgets, it's the hope of the Finance Committee and the Select Board that this increase in the reserve fund will provide an avenue to help various departments cover some of the losses they may experience through the loss of grants, if indeed the grants aren't available. On page 8, Article 9, Table 5, has a number of new lines. Just above the middle of the table, the ACO, Animal Control Officer, and kennel fee have been moved here from the police budget because both are contracted services. And both of these we propose to pay from the dog revolving fund. The emergency medical services, also mentioned by Ken, last year was under the fire department budget, and as you're noting right now, it's a significant increase over last year, and we'll hear more about that. 2 other items moved to this expense from the town hall expense are the copier contract and the bottled water service. Other significant increases in this table are for the IT services and the website maintenance, which are coming under, needing to be paid by raise and appropriate. On page 9, still on table 5, we're displaying the insurance costs separately for employees and retirees. The total for the health insurance, if you add those 2 numbers together, is $195,048. I'm calling this to your attention not because it's a big change, but because it isn't. We've all been hearing for weeks or maybe even months now that there's an 18% increase in medical insurance costs. So what happened? What happened is some of our employees decided to change the insurances that they were requiring, that they wanted to be enrolled in. And the other factor is that some employees changed. Some left, and new people did not take the same package that their predecessor had. So we wound up with a level-funded budget, and wasn't that nice? On page 10, table 6, the police department's total budget reflects not just Bernardston, but also Leiden under our agreement with them. And the fire department represents the best estimates that everybody has for maintaining the new building. The highway payroll increase represents a decision taken by the Select Board after our last annual meeting, and additionally, the promotion of 1 position to that of foreman. On page 11, still in table 6, the tree warden increase represents 3 additional days of tree work, and that number includes payroll and renting the lift. On Article 12, on page 12, we'll provide the funds to the Recreation Commission account to fund the clerk's salary, and to fund a new part-time recreation director position. This position has been reviewed and proposed by the Recreation Commission. Article 14 changes the name of the street flag account to street flag and cemetery flag account. Street flags are the ones that are on Church Street and South Street from Memorial Day to Veterans Day. And the cemetery flags are those placed annually on the graves of veterans in our two local cemeteries. Amendment to Article 15 will be offered to change the way we fund the proposed town audit, which I didn't write down. We have a new accounting firm, and an audit is suggested as a good business practice whenever you change auditors. So by rights, we should have done that audit this year, but on FY '24, but we are going to catch up by doing it on 25. Article 24 on page 13, I promised we'd get back here. This is the pumper truck loan. And the purpose is to pay the full balance of the loan using $400,000 from the stabilization fund and $587,000 from free cash. This approach will save the town the interest costs that would have been incurred over the life of the loan. If we paid $100,000 again on the principal each year for the next 9 years and got the same interest rate we have now, the total interest over those 9 years would come to over $200,000. And that doesn't count the interest we're paying this year. So our suggestion is pay this off with the money that we have available. And it will require a 2/3 majority vote because we're taking money from a stabilization fund. And it seems an obvious move, so we hope you'll all agree with us. Now, just a summary of what's going on here. Free cash was certified at $1,118,871. And if you picked up the 2-page spreadsheet that Finance Committee prepared, on the back side, these numbers are all laid out for you. And if you didn't pick one up, I suggest you do. So we have allocated all but about $2,400 of that amount as we go through the budget. You will be approving those allocations. The total of all of the articles in this warrant is $8,247,364.45. After adding state charges and abatements, and then deducting transfers and best estimates for cherry sheet and local receipts, the total that we need to raise by property tax, if all these articles are approved, is $5,404,865.96, an increase from last year of approximately $237,000. All this information, as I said, is on page 2. Finally, I want to make another appeal to fill those 2 empty seats. It really is hard when you have a 5-member board and there are only 3 members. That means not one of us can ever miss a meeting, or it won't be a legal meeting. We need you to volunteer to fill that seat. And if you won't volunteer to fill one of those seats, give us the name of your friend who can. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for the honor that I received tonight, and I can't think of anybody I would rather share a dedication with than Bob. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions regarding the statement of the chairman of the Finance Committee? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the reports as that have been delivered as stated in Article 1.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting these reports?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 2, to see if the town of Bernardston will authorize the Select Board to apply for and accept state and/or federal monies and to expend any monies received as set forth in the appropriate application and/or document, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second with respect to Article 2. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 2 passes unanimously. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to accept and expend without further appropriation any monies which may be made available from the Commonwealth through the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for improvements to town roads, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 3 passes unanimously. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to authorize the treasurer to enter into compensating balance agreements for fiscal year 2026, commencing on July 1st, 2025, pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53F, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, Article 4, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 4 passes unanimously. Article 5, to see if the town will vote under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 108, or any amendments thereto, to fix the salaries of all elected officials for fiscal year 2026 and raise and appropriate any sum or sums thereto, and further, to raise and appropriate, and there's the table on the top of the page shows a total of $839,764.46 for the payroll and maintenance of the several departments of the town in accordance with the amounts recommended by the Finance Committee as shown in the first column of the following table, Table 1, or to pass any votes or votes relative thereto. And the Select Board and the Finance Committee recommend passage of this article. So if you look at Table 1, which is on page 2, all of page 3, all of page 4, and then on to page 5, that will show you the figures which are summarized in the $839,764.46 figure. So is there a motion relative to this?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there any?
I'd like to offer an amendment.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
To amend Article 5 to read, in that little table at the top, raise and appropriate $591,467.66, transfer from free cash $247,796.80.
Yeah, so the first figure is $591,467.66. Is that
Yes.
correct? And the second figure is $247,796.86.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the transfer from the Barber Fund remains the same?
Everything else remains the same.
Okay,
Including the total.
okay. Okay, so one figure has been reduced from the original, has been reduced by $40,000, and the money from the free cash has been increased by $40,000.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So I have a motion to amend the article.
Second.
There's a second. Okay, we'll vote on that first. All in favor of the motion to amend?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, now we proceed to the motion, to the article as amended. Any discussion of the amended article? Seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Article 5 as amended.
Could I get a copy of that?
Yeah, and, yeah, if you can give us a,
And Jeff, you didn't declare that the amendment was voted unanimously, in case you want to.
yes, okay. So the article was passed, amended article was passed unanimously, and I've neglected to point out that the motion to amend it was also passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, so proceeding to Article 6 on page 5. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $800, transfer from free cash $5,000 for a total of $5,800 for Bernardston's share of the education expense in accordance with the amounts recommended by the Finance Committee and shown in the first column of the following Table 2, or pass any vote or votes relative thereto. So can I have a motion relative to that article?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 6 passes unanimously. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $332,157, transfer from free cash $6,736.16 for a total of $338,893.16 for Bernardston's share of the education expenses in accordance with the amounts recommended by the Finance Committee as shown in the first column of the following table, Table 3, or pass any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Okay, moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion relative to Article 7?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
the superintendent of that school is in the audience if he wants to address the group.
Well, so far I have no questions. So I think we'll proceed if, unless somebody wants to hear from the, okay, apparently everyone's satisfied with the information they have. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Article 7 passes $178,272.48 for public services in accordance with the amounts recommended by the Finance Committee as shown in the first column of the following table, Table Roman numeral 6, or pass any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussions with respect to Article 10? Yes, sir. If you could stand, identify yourself, and move to the microphone.
Steve Neston Power, 10 Dewey Street. Is there any place where a resident of Bernardston can find a listing of all the employees and what their individual salaries are? Or is that private information?
Okay. Anybody want to respond to that?
I
Yeah, it's not private
Um,
information, but there may not
I think that would be a public information request. Donna, is that, am I
Yes.
correct? If it were made as a public information request, the treasurer, who is in charge of our payroll, would respond.
Yeah, the salaries of employees are not confidential. They're available by public records request, but I don't know that there's a list anywhere of all the employees and their salaries.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Yes, ma'am. The back, if you could find a microphone.
While she's coming to the microphone, can I expound on that? If he's
Yes.
interested in the number of employees in each department, I think that number is available by calling Town Hall. We could find that for you.
Okay. Okay, yes?
This is the fire department budget, right? The operating budget line item, I in the right one?
No, this is basically,
It's, yes.
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
It's a
Fire
piece of this
department is
article.
within this category.
Okay, if you could
Oh,
identify
I'm sorry, so I'm
yourself.
Danielle Bordenweek of 208 Couchbrook Road. And just curious, I know that your station's bigger, and obviously the expenses are gonna be larger. Just wondering why, are we just trying to cover ourselves by almost doubling the operating budget for the fire station?
Okay.
Um,
Somebody wish to respond to
Pete,
that?
do you want to respond?
Chief?
Peter Shedd, Fire Chief. As we transferred over, we were off on our electrical estimates. The building is set up as three-phase electrical wiring, if that means anything to anybody. Most of the stuff we have now is not three-phase, so it required quite a bit of electrical work going on. And going forward, with all new lights and everything in the building, it is slightly higher than what we predicted or thought it was going to be. So that was an expense. Also, the heating, trying to heat the building, we did it differently than what they were doing. They were using waste oil, and we were using regular oil. And in the process of rebuilding and doing the stuff, we've tightened the building up and made it a lot tighter, so it's much easier to heat, but again, them numbers are off, so we're just sort of taking a stab in the dark on them two items of where they're gonna be.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll put Article 10 to a vote as moved and motion moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash $150,000 for the stabilization account in accordance with the amounts recommended by the Finance Committee as shown in the first column of the following table, Table Roman numeral 7, or pass any votes or votes relative thereto.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Article 11, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 11 passes unanimously. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Barber Fund the amount of $15,265.67 for the Recreation Commission account, and further to transfer from the Kiwanis Trust unrestricted account the sum of $1,000 to the Kiwanis Recreation Equipment Fund to be expended by the Recreation Commission for recreation programs and field maintenance, or take any votes or vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion relative to the motion relative to Article 12? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 12 passes unanimously. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the amount of $1,200 for the maintenance of the Burke Flat Cemetery, formerly called the Village or Old Cemetery, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 13 passes unanimously. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the amount of $450 for the street and cemetery flag replacement account, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion relative to Article 14? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 14 passes unanimously. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the amount of $13,000 for the fiscal year 26 town audit, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second?
I have an amendment.
Okay? You could-
I move to amend Article 15 to read, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $6,500 and transfer from free cash $6,500 for a total of $13,000 for a fiscal year '25 town audit, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to amend Article 15, and that motion's been seconded, so we will, any discussion relative to the motion to amend? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the motion to amend?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion to amend Article 15 to show $6,500 from, what was it, from the,
Free cash.
raise and appropriate the sum of $6,500 and to transfer $6,500 from free cash. Any discussion relative to the motion as it's now been amended? Okay, seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 15 is amended, is passed unanimously. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the amount of $2,400 for the second of 5 installments for the Board of Assessors fiscal year '29 reevaluation, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 16 passes unanimously. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the amount of $5,000 for the mosquito control district, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion regarding mosquitoes? Okay. There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Article 17 passes unanimously. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the amount of $65,000 and transfer from free cash the amount of $65,000 for a total of $130,000 for the second of 10 installments for the fire station loan, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion relative to the issue of $130,000 for paying the second installment on the fire station loan? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 18 passes unanimously. Article 19, see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $5,000 to be added to the employee retirement separation account, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion relative to Article 19? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 19 passes unanimously. Article 20, to see if the town will transfer from free cash the amount of $5,000 to be added to the other post-employment benefits trust fund, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. We have a motion. Any discussion? Relative to Article 20, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 20 passes unanimously. Article 21, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the amount of $9,400 to be added to the culvert replacement account, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Article 21, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 21 passes unanimously. Article 22, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the amount of $15,000 for the Renovate Construct Town Buildings account, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Article 22, any discussion? Seeing none. Article 22, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 22 passes unanimously. Article 23, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the amount of $5,000 to a tax collection software fund in order to provide for the future purchase of the tax collection software, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, anybody, any discussion relative to Article 23? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 23 passes unanimously. Article 24, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the amount of $587,000, and further, to transfer from the stabilization fund the amount of $400,000 for a total of $987,000 in order to pay the entire balance due on the fire truck borrowing approved at the April 29, 2024 annual town meeting, or take any vote or votes relative thereto. This article requires a 2/3 majority vote.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion relative to the transfer of money from free cash and stabilization fund totaling $987,000 to pay off the fire truck? Anybody wish to be heard? Nobody indicating they wish to be heard, the matter will be put to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Hearing no dissent, it passes unanimously and therefore by 2/3. Article 25, to see if the town will vote to authorize the following spending limits for revolving funds in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, and the Town of Bernardston bylaw for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, or take any vote or votes relative thereto. And it shows the fund limits that are proposed are Council on Aging donations, $10,000 spending limit, Board of Health, $15,000 spending limit, Zoning and Board of Appeals, $1,000, and Planning Board, $2,000. And then on to the next page, Fire Department, $2,000, dog licenses, $7,000, Public Safety, $15,000, Transfer Station Recycling, $37,000, Cushman Library, $5,000, Agricultural Commission, $5,000, Newsletter, $2,000, Street Flag Replacement Fund, $5,000, and Fire and Water District, $1,200.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded relative to Article 25. Any discussion? Seeing none, Article 25, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 26, to see if the town will vote to adopt and enact the amendments to the Franklin Regional Council of Governments Charter. Said amendments having been proposed by a 2/3 majority of the weighted vote of the full membership of the FRCOG Council and a majority vote of the FRCOG Executive Committee, with said amendments taking full effect immediately upon adoption by 2/3 of the member towns, unless a later effective date is otherwise specified, or take any action relative thereto. A 2/3 majority vote by this town meeting is required for adoption and enactment of this article, or take any vote or votes relative thereto.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do we have somebody here that wanted to be heard on this?
Yep.
Yes.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Atwood. I'm the Director of Planning at Franklin Regional Council of Governments.
Okay, you'll
And-
have to get a little closer to the microphone here. Okay.
Sorry about that. I'm
Okay.
Jessica Atwood, the Director of Planning at the Franklin Regional Council of Governments, and the Select Board asked that I just give a very, very brief, quick overview of what these charter changes are talking about. For folks who aren't familiar with the Franklin Regional Council of Governments, we're both a council of governments and a regional planning agency. We are governed by a 29-member council, which includes representation from every participating town in Franklin County, as well as a 5-member executive committee. Back in the 1990s, we were county government, and as county government was being eliminated, people recognized the value of the services of our organization, so we reformed as a council of governments. Again, that was in 1997. The charter change that we're talking about, the charter is our governing document, and it hasn't been changed in 25-plus years. And as time has gone on, we've learned lessons, we've evolved, we've grown as an organization. Back in '97, we were less than 30 people. We're double that size now, with over 80% of our staff funded by grants and fees. And it takes a 2/3 vote at annual town meetings at 2/3 of our towns to pass the charter change. A review of some of the changes is we've removed the initial formation language that was in the original document. That's happened. It's no longer needed. We've made our tense and capitalization and language, things our English teacher would be proud of, consistent throughout. We've added some definitions. Instead of town administrator, we say chief administrative official. We've also adjusted some items to reflect changes over time and allow appropriate flexibility. So, for example, our director of finance had a role in the Franklin County retirement system. Our organization is no longer part of that system, so that shouldn't be in the charter. Another example is in the charter it says we need to transmit our budget numbers to the municipalities by February 1st, and we're never able to do that because we don't get our own health insurance information until the last week of January. So we're proposing it to make it February 15th. For the Franklin Regional Planning Board, we're changing the name to Franklin Regional Planning Advisory Board, and we're taking a lot of the specifics that's in the charter, such as composition and terms and meeting schedule, and taking that out and putting it into operating procedures that are specific to the board. So those are some of the examples of the things that are in that charter change. There's a document out front that has the redlined description of all the changes. As was mentioned, the charter has passed by the Executive Committee and the Council of the FERCog. I think this is the 16th town meeting that this is being presented to. If it passes the 2/3 of communities in our membership, we will also then go to the state to do enabling legislation. So that's a very quick recap. And if there's any questions, I'm available.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? See none. Anybody have any questions relative to the motion? Relative to the motion itself? Also see none. Therefore, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor of Article 26 as moved and seconded, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously and therefore satisfies the 2/3 requirement. Article 27, to see if the town will vote under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 9, or any amendments thereto, to add a special town meeting and incorporate into the town's annual governance schedule to be held annually in October. The special town meeting will be used to consider and vote on proposed additions, amendments, or revisions to town bylaws, address unforeseen financial or budgetary matters and that require a special town meeting in accordance with the town's needs, or take any vote or votes relative thereto. This article was petitioned by Mr. John Lepore. Is there a motion relative to this article? So moved. Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, it's moved and seconded. Mr. Lepore, do you wish to be heard with maybe explain this? Sure. Okay, why don't you stand and identify yourself?
Thank you very much for letting me have an opportunity to speak. It became very apparent that the bylaw changes for the planning board were getting more and more complicated. We have a couple coming up that need careful consideration. So rather than stack more public hearings in front of the town meeting, we came up with the idea of having a special town meeting in the fall to present these amendments to the town bylaws, as well as it states in the proposal, to address any additional needs for the town. Are there any questions that I can answer, please? Thank you.
Okay, does anybody wish to be heard relative to this?
Yes. Our select board has never been hesitant to call special town meetings when they've been requested to do so or when a need has presented itself. As far as financial matters go, waiting until fall often would be a detriment to the question that's being presented. I looked back over history, and I should have written it down so I could have shared it. But to tie us to an October meeting seems to me to be not in the best interest of the town. We can hold town meetings whenever we want to request them, and there's a method for holding a town meeting if the select board does not approve your request. So I don't see any advantage to setting up an October town meeting when we might not need it at all. We were asked to set the date for this annual town meeting earlier than usual because there were going to be bylaws that had to have a hearing, and they wanted to know what the date was. But there were no bylaws submitted for this meeting. So I think this is just putting a burden on the town that is unnecessary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Yes. Okay, if you could stand and identify yourself, please.
Yes, I'm Ron Fulton, Chair of the Planning Board. And one of the reasons why we discussed this concept among ourselves in our Planning Board meetings was because there are so many changes that are needed to the town bylaws, which need to be carefully considered with due serious consideration. It cannot be done very quickly in the sense of how we're handling everything here today, which I understand is efficient and well thought out in advance, and I respect this process. What the Planning Board would like to see is the town have a chance to have due consideration about necessary changes to the bylaws of the town, which will be long-lasting and far-reaching. And to do that quickly in a situation like this, where it's impossible to go into more subtle aspects of what really is being considered, is a disservice to the process of the changes. So we have decided, instead of trying to insert a lot of subtle bylaw changes into the meeting today, that we would set up a time for the town to have this kind of discussion to be carried out in the fall on an annual basis. And of course, we're not insisting, or we're not restricting the Finance Committee or any other committee in town from calling a special town meeting anytime they wish. It's simply that every year on the Planning Board, we spend a lot of time looking at the zoning bylaws and how they conform to necessary changes required by Boston, and also what is in the best long-term interests of the citizens of this community. And so language becomes very critical, as I'm sure any lawyer here would understand. And we try to give due attention to that process. And therefore, we think it's in the long-term best interest of the town of Bernardston to have this opportunity annually to really seriously look at what the bylaws are saying and what they should say, as opposed to what they actually say now. And we've come across many different aspects of changes to life in town, having to do with things like food trucks, or what is a restaurant, or what is an ADU, adult accessory dwelling unit. What do these things mean? Are they short-term rentals? Are they long-term rentals? They're things that seem obvious on the surface, and yet they're very complex when you dig down into them. And we want to give people of the town the chance to really understand what's at stake here. And we think that having a town meeting in October, as opposed to jamming it in here in the final 5 minutes, is in much better long-term interest of the town, as opposed to doing it very quickly and cursorily. So we feel strongly that having this additional town meeting annually will allow the town to really seriously consider the long-term impact of the changes we propose. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I respond?
Yes.
I would respectfully point out that you are discussing zoning bylaws, not town bylaws. Zoning bylaws require a hearing prior to the votes. And I don't know how many people attend your hearings, but you do go into detail there. You've never been cut short in this meeting, as far as I know, in presenting what goes on. Whether it's this annual meeting or a special town meeting, we always hear as much as you can possibly tell us. And I don't know about anybody else, but you know you get questions from me. Everybody gets questions from me. I have no problem with you having a special town meeting every October. I just don't want to tie the town to a commitment that it has to have one every October.
Can we amend it?
Well, we can vote to stop that later,
If necessary.
if we need to, or if we wish to.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I don't understand. Could you clarify what you're saying?
Well, she's mentioning that we don't want to be tied to an annual meeting required in the fall every
Right.
year. We can start with that approach, or we can decide to change it later if we choose to. But I think that this process is something that is in the best interest of the town. And I hope that other people here would agree with me.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else wish to be heard? Yes, in the back, if you could.
Yeah, just as needed. October as needed.
Danielle Bordeweek of 208 Couchbrook Road. As someone with a 2-year-old, I barely have time to come to this one meeting, and I just think it's money that we don't have to spend or time for all of our underpaid officials to have to do a mandatory meeting. Just call a special meeting like everyone else does, like when we did the fire truck and the fire station. Just seems a waste of everyone's time.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am, if you could.
Mary Bancroft, 17 Hills Crossing. I guess I'm not sure I see the necessity of a special meeting every fall if we can, in fact, call a special town meeting at any time that we need to. So, but I'm also just what Jane said about, does this, if we pass this, does this mean that we?
Okay, go ahead. This is on the motion now. We have a motion, so we need a second.
I'll second her amendment.
Okay, so we have a motion to add the words "as needed." Since the
Instead of
person
annually.
who proposed the motion didn't reduce it to writing.
The forms are down.
Forms are down there.
Yeah, can you tell me exactly where the words "as needed" would be added? It'd be to be
Instead
held
of-
annually in October and then.
Instead of
Pass that
annually.
down.
Don't get rid of, be held as needed.
I'm sending you a form.
Jane's mending it.
No, she's just sending you the
Oh,
form.
thank you.
Okay, so you wanted to say to be held as needed in October?
Right? Yes.
Okay.
And then an additional amendment. And then she's made an additional amendment. The special town meeting will be used, if desired, to consider the laundry list, so that it doesn't have to be used for that, and those things don't have to be at a special if people want to put them on the annual.
I guess my question would be is, to what degree is this anything more than aspirational, the way you have it now? I mean, you can call a town meeting if you need one to discuss what you want to discuss. How's that any different from what we have now?
It basically means
not.
that the Grand Fair will be in a special
It's not.
meeting in October.
Okay,
I mean, basically, all it's doing is giving notice to the citizens that there may be a special town meeting called in October if there's complex zoning bylaws or some other complex matter, that rather than extend the annual town meeting into excessive hours, will be moved to the fall, so that citizens, if they want to do petition articles, if they want to propose bylaw amendments, if the planning board wants to do complex zoning amendments, then there's at least the opportunity to have a special town meeting to address those, so that the annual town meeting isn't overly extended.
and does this in any way limit people's rights to do exactly the same thing in any month other than October?
Absolutely not.
Okay, which I guess brings me back. Okay.
Can I ask a question
Well,
of the amendment?
I'm sorry, Mr. Lepore has the floor right now.
Thank you. John LaFleur. Just a case in point, this, if you've been looking at the papers about accessory dwelling units and how complex that new language is, the planning board didn't even receive the information, the wording of those ADUs necessary for formulation of the bylaw until March, which really wouldn't have given us enough time to have a public hearing to go through that process. Yet it's a really important bylaw, and there's some really significant changes coming with that we want to make sure the citizens of Bernardston understand. We would not have had time to do that, so would have had to wait until the fall anyways. That's just a case in point about how complex things are getting. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a
Ms.
question.
Dutcher, I think you're next.
My question was, it says revision of town bylaws, and I think they're talking about zoning bylaws, and I think that should be made clear. There's a difference between town bylaws and zoning bylaws.
Yes, absolutely. Something I do want to mention, I used to be the chair of the planning board, and one of the things that's really difficult for the planning board is to know when to hold their public hearing prior to the annual town meeting, which those dates have fluctuated. Sometimes it's been in April, and sometimes it's been in June. So the timing that is required by the planning board to hold their public hearing has to happen within a 6-month period prior to the annual town meeting if they're going to present those articles at town meeting. And so when there's a fluctuating date for the planning board to try to work with, it's hard to know, okay, so do they have to have their public hearing in February so that they meet the deadline for an April town meeting if the select board decides that that's when they want to do the town meeting? And if they do it in February, are they gonna, they still meet the June date, I suppose, but it just makes it hard to know and to be able to figure out their work schedule to get everything together to have a public hearing for presenting their zoning bylaw changes to the town prior to town meeting.
I think it might be helpful if somebody would explain to the meeting how one goes about requesting or scheduling a special town meeting.
Well, I have a question regarding John's
Okay.
and Chris's comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said you didn't get an answer until March on the ADU, right? So let's say we schedule an October meeting and you don't get the answer till September. You still don't have enough time. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't get the answer till March, you had no time to get it for this meeting. Okay, let's say the next thing that comes up, you don't get an answer till September, and you still don't have time for a now scheduled October meeting. And you have to put that off until annual, probably.
Okay.
That's-
But again, which leads back to the question I asked, how does one go about scheduling a special town meeting?
You request it, may I?
Yeah.
You request it from the select board,
Okay,
No.
and the select board, to my knowledge, has always worked with that request and complied with it. I don't ever remember Bernardston turning down a request for a special town meeting.
I think that's
However-
true, but we could cite the statute and how you can absolutely have a right to call it without the select board's discretion.
yeah.
Who has a right to call?
Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 10, don't hold me to it, it might be 9, basically says that in order to call a special town meeting, you need to get signatures from 20% of the registered voters on a petition to call a special town meeting, or I believe it's 200 signatures. So for Bernardston, that would be a significant amount, but certainly not undoable. And then the citizens, not at the discretion of the select board, but the citizens could force a special town meeting to be called at any time of the year.
Right, and that's, if the select board doesn't approve it, then you have that alternative of having the special town meeting.
That seems pretty onerous to me. 200 signatures?
I think it's a percentage.
Yeah, but I think it's 20% of the voters,
So wouldn't it be easier just to have something saying that the that the planning board or had the right to ask for a special town meeting, and then if they asked for it, then it was granted. Wouldn't that be a lot easier? And then you have the flexibility when they're ready, then they tell the selectmen they need a special town meeting. And whether it's doesn't have to be in October, maybe it would make more sense in some cases if it were in June. You can get it done sooner, or if you weren't ready in October, maybe it would make more sense to have it in November or December. I think that's part of the problem with the October date is you're just tying yourself down to another fixed deadline where either you might be too early or too late. But if you had something that said that they go to the selectmen and say, we need a special town meeting, they know that they're going to get it.
I think that, I'm not sure that would be legal, given 39, Section 10. I think that if you put in, I guess it would have to be a town bylaw, and not done like this, but an actual town bylaw that says if you demand a special town meeting, the selectmen have to call it, then I think we would need to check with the AG. If I was making a ruling on that, I would say that's contrary to 39, Section 10, and taking away the authority of the select board so that it may not be legal.
Okay.
I'm concerned about that.
Okay, anybody else want to add to the mix? Okay, we have a motion on the floor that was made and seconded to amend Article 27 as printed to add, I think in line 3, and incorporate into the town's annual governance schedule as needed to be held annually in October. I guess which begs the question of what we're just discussing, who would determine as needed?
I think Chris was going to take out the word annual.
Yeah,
Yes,
Replace it with as needed.
okay.
correct.
Okay, but I guess, given the discussion we've just had about the authority, who determines as needed? Aren't we right back where we started from?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, this is almost like a referendum from the town people saying to the select board, we would like,
2 town meetings.
we would like a second town meeting in the fall if there are numerous complicated bylaws, whether general or zoning, or other matters, maybe building a fire station, something of that, where long presentations, a lot of information need to be given to the voters, that we would like at least the town to sort of be on notice that we as the voters feel the calling a special town meeting in the fall to give us time to seriously consider those at a town meeting, rather than sort of tack them on to the end of the annual where they may not get as much consideration. That's really what I see this as. This isn't a bylaw. It's nothing that requires this October meeting. It's almost like a referendum for all of you saying that we like this idea.
What she said.
Yeah, I want to see how you put that in writing.
Well, it's in writing. I mean, this is not a bylaw or anything that would force the selectmen to have an October meeting. This is something, and so it's basically the voters suggesting to them that they think this is a good idea to consider.
Yes, Mr. Nessepower, if you could go to the microphone.
John, I just have, Steve Neston-Power, 10 Dewey. John, I just would like to know how you consider this different from what is happening with the 6-town regional planning board. What, is that any less crucial or important? You read on the fact sheet that eventually there's going to have to be a special town meeting of the 6 towns that all have to approve it by 2/3.
Do you understand?
Do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
what I'm saying is, there are times when any other department might be faced with complicated and important business that cannot wait. You have just as much the right to call a special meeting for the planning board than the school committee has to call for a special meeting to vote for the six-town regional board. I don't understand why you're insisting to have in October, which has been pointed out, is really fixing it at a time where half the time it won't be valid, given the space. I don't understand why we're beating this to death.
Okay, thank you. Do you wish to respond? No. Okay. Okay, anybody else wish to be heard? Okay, so first before us is to vote on the motion to amend. So if I could have the specific language. Go ahead.
You want the whole thing?
Yep.
Okay, amend to Article 27 to see if the town will vote under the provisions of MGL Chapter 39, Section 9, or any amendments thereto to add a special town meeting and incorporate into the town's annual governance schedule to be held as needed in October. The special town meeting will, if desired, be to consider and vote on proposed additions, amendments, revisions to town bylaws, address unforeseen financial or budgetary matters, and that require a special town meeting in accordance with the town's needs, or take any votes or votes relative thereto.
Okay. That's the motion to amend. Anybody wish to be heard with respect to the motion to amend?
Yes,
Okay, please.
I have my same question. Town bylaws, town zoning bylaws. I think this is referring to zoning bylaws.
Well, it says to be used to vote on consideration, additions, amendments, or revisions to town bylaws. So that's all it
It would
refers
be
to.
both. It would be both, yeah.
Yeah.
Encompasses both.
Both what?
Both?
Zoning
Zoning
and general.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, or address unforeseen. Well, maybe you should add the word or address unseen, or, but it's your
There's a
motion.
lot of conjunctions that aren't in here. There's a lot of those that aren't in here.
No, well, there's a whole lot more than that.
Call the vote.
Okay,
Call the vote.
okay. Yes, please.
Ron Fulton, 46 Fox Hill Road, Planning Board Chair. I think given all the discussion about the difficulties of calling a special town meeting, one of the advantages of having this on the books is that it will make it easier, should the need arise, to simply say, okay, it's October and we have these issues, let's call a town meeting. We don't have to get 200 signatures. We don't have to go through all the other stuff that's normally required. It's simply sitting there as an available option that if we choose to use it, it's easily accessed. And if we don't need it, then we don't do it that year.
Okay.
But it's simply something that's available on a very handy and user-friendly basis.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Jeff, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I just want to be very clear that this does not force the select board's hands to have this meeting. This is the voters telling them they would like, if the planning board or any other committee or town residents would like an October meeting, that the town supports them calling that without having to go through the 200 signatures or 20% of the voters petition. But this is not a bylaw. It doesn't have the force of taking away the select board's authority, which is to call town meetings, whether they be special, annual, whatever. It's basically just a referendum telling them that it makes sense to do this if there's a lot of complex issues that would be better served at its own town meeting.
Which hopefully they would realize anyways, but, okay. So on the motion, all in favor? Any opposed?
No.
Okay, I
That's the
think the noes have it.
That's the amendment.
That was the amendment?
That was the amendment. So
Okay.
we're back to the original article, exactly as it's written on the sheet before you. Any further discussion relative to that? It's no longer been changed in any way. It's exactly what it says. All in favor? Any opposed? No. The noes have it. Okay. Anybody wish to be heard from before we conclude?
Make a motion to close the meeting.
Okay.
Second.
We've gone through all the articles, and therefore I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, which has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everybody.